I'm in.
Hey there, kids, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Uncle Frank, and that you are having a great day. And in today's video, I want to sit back, relax with all of you, and have a chat about a new game coming to the market. This thing, and this box is huge. This is Black Hats. It is the tagline: a tactical card game with hackable board for 2 players. A little bit of a story behind this. This is a game being backed on Kickstarter, I believe. Don't quote me on that. And a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago now, I think, Eric Finnegan, Ray Ortgeisen, I believe it's Ray Ortgeisen. If I'm mispronouncing that, feel free to correct me. He reached out to me through email and said, hey, we've got this game. It's being funded through Kickstarter. We are in production now. Would you like to give it a review? Like to hear what you have to say. And he says he's watched the channel, so that's definitely a bonus. Thank you for watching the channel. So I said yeah. He sent me a copy, and over the last few days I've given it a few tries. I've read through the rules, tried a few different games with some friends, and now I'm ready to share my thoughts with all of you. But before we get into that, you guys know what I've said before on this channel. This is not sponsored content. At least I don't consider it sponsored content. They just sent me out a game and asked me for my honest opinion on it, and I intend to give you guys my honest and unbiased opinion. If you guys want to see this as sponsored content, you're well within your right to do so. I understand. And to the guys at Black Hats, just thank you guys for sending this out to me. I always enjoy giving new games a try, and for what it's worth, I just think trying new things is good for everyone in general. I've said that before on the channel, I think. So with all that out of the way, with that little disclaimer out of the way, let's get into the actual explanation and review itself. Got myself little note sheets. That's right, I'm remembering to write notes down before my videos. Isn't that great? Aren't I such a smart guy? First impressions. Before I even got into the game itself, I was looking at the box, and the box is well designed. I like that quite a bit. It's a big box. I think I've said that already too. It's one of the bigger games I've got here. One of the bigger box games I got here. Opening the box itself was a little treat, because on the bottom side of the box, as you're opening it up, it transitions from this lock symbol on the bottom to an access granted sign. And I thought that was an absolute treat. I thought that tickled me sideways. I really liked that. Some other things I noted before I even got into the gameplay was the concept of bandwidth being an actual game term. Didn't know how I felt about that before I started playing. There is lore. The game does have lore. It's set in a techno-futuristic world where the world's nations have been sold out to corporate monopolies, and you are a runner trying to access critical data for your client. Also, there's a whole spiel about climate change and devastation outside of a handful of cities and all kinds of crazy cyber nonsense. It's really good if you're into cyberpunk dystopianism. It's got that kind of lore to it. There's like a page and a half of lore just in the rule books. I can't stress this enough. I have a whole other channel where I just talk about lore and how much I hate WotC, which is the Goza's company. It's supposed to be a lore channel, and I am absolutely tickled whenever any game has actual proper lore. No matter how big or in-depth it is, a game itself having some sort of lore that helps you, the player, immerse yourself better into the game world, I think that's a strict bonus. So before I even get into a game like this, if I see that it has lore to it, a story to it, something beyond just taking on a persona and going to town on your opponent, that automatically gives me a little bit of a bonus interest. So the game itself, let's talk about the game itself here. I've got notes, but they're split across 3 pages. The core gameplay is you have assembled a team of runners and their rigs, as well as a deck of executable files, and you are going across this hex board to try and steal a data packet from the opponent, return it to your center, and claim points. 5 points wins you the game. How does the game work? Simple. There is the runners and their rigs. You have 20 points to work with, and you assemble a team of runners and rigs worth up to a total of 20 points. Then you also build a deck of 20 cards. No more than 2 copies of a card can be in the deck, except for, I think it's Hack the Network. Yes, Hack the Network, at which you can have any number of copies. And we'll get to that in just a bit. Players take turns in a round, a simple back and forth, where they each take one action, whether that action is playing a card or activating a runner. When you activate a runner, you can move them up to their movement speed across the hex grid, and then activate one of their actions, whether that's attacking an enemy, trying to steal the data, using a special ability, etc. And yeah, they all have all kinds of crazy special abilities. There's a huge combination of runners that you could have. Some are pretty crazy, some are really broken. Really cool stuff going on in this game. In essence, you know, looking at the basic thing where you're trying to go back and forth with the data package from your opponent's data center to yours, it kind of feels like Capture the Flag, but in the future with hackers. Isn't that great? It does have a hex grid, and part of the core gameplay is the fact that the hex grid itself has several different stages. These are nodes. Each hex is a node, and multiple nodes of the same color connect into a network. Crossing through a network is harder to do than just moving through interconnected nodes on a network. So if you have a bunch of blue hexes next to each other, it's easy enough to move through them. But if you have a blue hex, then a white hex, then a red hex, it takes extra actions to move through those. Understand? Well, the reason that matters is those nodes, those hexes on the map, can be hacked and have their colors changed from blue to red to white, etc. And this matters because a group of hexes of the same color connected to each other, that's a subnet. And you can do a lot of cool things in a subnet, such as attacking an enemy, passing the data from one character to another, activating special abilities that only affect certain characters within a subnet. There's a lot of really cool things. That terminology matters. But the big thing is you want to get the data package from your opponent's data server to yours. The data package is represented by a 6-sided die, and as that data is attacked by your opponent's runners, hackers, it takes damage. If it goes to 0, the data gets returned to the server, and you lose out. But if you manage to get it back to your server, you discard a number of cards from the top of your deck equal to the total point of the data remaining. So if you have 5 data points, you discard 5 cards. You go through those, and the highest value of those cards is what gets added to your score. 5 points means you win. Also, if you knock out an opponent's hacker, runner, you get a point for there as well. So there's a few different ways you can play the game. You can try to get the data across the board as fast as possible to just try and ring in the points there. Or you can try to knock out all of your opponent's runners to claim as much victory there as possible. And then, of course, win by default because they're dead, right? Isn't that nice? Overall, I've played a few games now. I've played about 5 games by the time I've recorded this video with a few different friends. Both with the demo example decks that were suggested by the back of the rule set, as well as the extra decks presented with the extra pieces of paper that came with the box. And then I tried making my own decks and had some fun there too. And overall, I would say first and foremost, this game is very intuitive once you understand the core rules. Figuring out what you're doing in advance is very easy to do once you understand what your different characters are. Especially once you've picked out a favorite character. If you have a favorite character, planning your game in advance is very easy. There's a character, for instance, he has a passive ability of, if he is the one who steals the data, instead of it being 5, it's 6. And if he delivers the data to your server at 6, if the data manages to stay undamaged for the entire trip, you win the game. That's like, just flat out win the game. That's Exodia right there. That's nuts. That's great. But with that all that said, you know, the basic explanation done, what do I like and dislike about this game? Pros first. Let's do the pros and then the cons. So the pros, there's a lot of customization of this game. Okay, not just in the deck you can play. And remember, you can have 20, your deck is 20 cards, and you can have 2 copies of any given card in your deck. There's Make sure I'm not grabbing any character cards. These are the cards you have to work with out of the basic box. There's like 200 something cards here. It's insane. There's a lot of cards you can select for your deck. This is the stuff you're working with. This is nuts. There's a lot of options here just to design your deck. And now I have to struggle to get all this stuff back in the box. There's also a lot of characters to choose from, a lot of runners to choose from, and there's a good combination of runners and their rigs, which you can use to assemble your all-star dream team. This game, by design, I think really encourages long-term planning and strategizing your turns out in advance. You'd think that since you can only do one thing a turn, you'd be kind of restricted in how you can move throughout the game. But I found, especially as more and more games went on, the better you were able to plot your gameplay out in advance, the more optimal you could move your units around the board and play your cards, trying to get the most points out of your individual plays. And like I said before, I like lore. I said this earlier in the video, but lore is a huge bonus for me, and whenever a game has lore that helps you immerse yourself in the game in some way, that's a bonus. The characters have lore, the world setting itself has lore, and that's just great to me. I also said this earlier, but this box is well designed. While I don't think Black Hats as a name for the game is the greatest, in fact, I was kind of confused, like, what the heck does that mean? And I'm still not entirely sure. So if you guys know what this might be a reference to, let me know. But just the back of the box, it's nice, it's bright, it's colorful. The box itself, there's a little lock symbol. If I would lift this up, you'd see access granted. I like the box. It's big. There's a lot going on here that I like, just in terms of presentation's key. If I had a space up there on the wall, I'd put this up there too, because it's a nice box. The other thing that I liked about the game is that the rules are very well presented to the reader right out of the box. There's a lot of card games I play where the rules are kind of counterintuitive, hard to understand, and poorly presented to the reader. These rules felt easy to digest, and that's just a nice little bonus for me. Anything else that I really liked before we continue on? I suppose the other thing that I'd like to say in terms of bonuses, I like the hex grid map. It's not like an objectively good thing. It's not like a better than a grid or anything, like a square grid. I just like hex grid maps. I don't see them a whole lot in gaming these days. And it tickles me a bit to see the hex grid map, and it just feels more cyberpunky. Now to get into the cons, the downsides of the game. One thing that I definitely noticed that will hurt this game if there's any kind of long-term sustainability these guys are worried about, the game design as is, because of how the board is set up and because of how the cards are designed for the runners, this can only ever be a two-player game. Now that's not a bad thing. I don't think every game has to be a game night, commander session with the boys kind of game, but I do think the way the game itself is designed means that it can only ever be a two-player card game. And I think it's a mistake to always restrict yourself by that. Maybe there's some homebrew rules that will come out in the future, or maybe the game will have an expansion board in the future that will allow for more than two players. But for now, it seems only two guys at a time can play this game. And while that's fine, I just think it's needlessly restrictive. Another thing, there are cards missing, or it feels like there's cards missing. Maybe I'm just not looking for it properly. In the demo teams they give you on the back of the rule book in the box, I'll put a video of it up there, but it's looking for a specific rig card. I think it's I forget the name now, but I was going through this. Let's go ahead and pull it out of the box. Let's open the box up for a second. As I drop everything everywhere. There we go. So on the back of the rules list here, as I make all that noise and almost drop everything, for the green crew, the catapult is supposed to be teamed with a rig called the Gonk Board Gonk Edition. I could not find Gonk Edition Gonk Board. There was a Gonk Board Potato, a Gonk Board Defender, but there was no Gonk Edition card in the cards that came with the box. And then I think there might have been one or two other cards that were just straight up not there. Maybe names changed during development, and Potato was supposed to be Defender or whatever, Gonk Edition. But I thought it was weird that there was, on the very back of the rule set, at least one card that was just completely missing from the game itself. More cons. Speaking of these teams here on the back, this purple team is just objectively better than the green team. If you are playing this game with a friend for the first time and they get stapled with the green team, they're screwed. They've already lost. I have found in 3 different games that the purple crew just runs better, just plays better. It's got more offensive options. It's got better mobility. Yeah, the green team, the RoboWare card. Oh, it says RoboWare 9000. That was another one. The RoboWare card in the box is RoboWare 9999 instead of 9000. I know it's a small distinction, but it did bother me. That card gives them a 99 movement, which is cool, but it's not enough to make up for the lack of the green team's overall power level, in my opinion. Another objective thing. I think this is just poor long-term game design rather than any problem necessarily. But the longer you play this game, the more inclined you are to slide more and more copies of Hack the Network into your deck. There's basically no reason not to run as many copies of that card as you can squeeze into a deck. In fact, the last game I play tested for this game, running a deck of just 20 copies of Hack the Network is totally a viable thing to do. Not smart, but it's totally viable. You could do that. We cut out some of our own cards to run, and then we realized that they don't have the proper card backs. And then we talked about, oh, maybe we should just sleeve them up. But then we decided we were too lazy for that. But yeah, you could just run a deck of all Hack the Networks, and it's totally going to run fine. And there's really no reason not to do it. Finally, a minor complaint, but this is one that has more to do with the box. This is a negative against the box, okay? The cards do not fit in the box itself. After you've taken everything out and moved all the pieces around, I found it very difficult, at least, I should say, to get all these cards back in the box in a satisfactory manner without having to use some kind of deck box on the inside to arrange things around. The board, the rules, all the game pieces slotted into their Ziploc bags, because I put my game pieces in Ziploc bags, and there are game pieces here. There's a lot of game pieces. There's pieces to represent the character on the board. There's the hexes. There's lock tiles. There's damage counters. There's a whole bunch of little pieces that come with this, and those have all got to go in the Ziploc bags. And I found that after the board, the rules, the pieces, everything is in the box, the cards that you need to play the game can't fit. So you need an extra place to store those, and I think that I'm always a bit miffed when I can't fit all of the requirements for the game in the box it came in easily. I'm sure that someone smarter than me could do it, but for my money, at the very least, I'm not smart enough to do that. So I think that's a negative too. Overall, what do I think? Well, I think the core gameplay loop is a lot of fun. I think the basic idea of building your team, building your deck, and then going to town on the same game board is a lot of fun. And I like the idea of, A, plotting out your game turns in advance as you try to pull a sneaky on your opponent, block their path, forge your own new path, and interrupt them while progressing your own game plan. I like that a lot. But I do think this should not be advertised as a card game. This is advertised as a tactical card game, and it plays like a board game. Yes, cards are a huge component of it, but I think that cards are not the focus of it. Instead, the focus is your tactics, your game pieces moving across the board, trying to make the most of your turns. Yes, cards are a huge aspect of this game. You cannot play the game without the cards. Cards basically determine everything you can do within this game, but there is a board aspect to it that also you need to play with. Hacking the board is half of the gameplay. The other half is moving your pieces across the board to try and maintain and gain points. So I believe that this should be qualified as a board game, not a card game. I know it's a small thing to get picky about, but it does irk me just a bit that this is called a card game and not a board game. So where do I give it a rating total on my games I've played this year? I've played a few different games this year, actually. I should talk about those at some point. Overall, if you are treating this as a card game and going into this with a card game mentality, I would give this a 7 out of 10. But if you go into this knowing it's actually a board game and you should be going this, approaching this with a board game mentality, it bumps itself up right away to an 8 out of 10. Where do I see this game going in the future? It's actually a lot of fun. If you have just one friend or a roommate or a significant other and you don't want to play Magic the Gathering or something, and there's plenty of reason not to do that, or, you know, you just want to kill an hour of your time trying something new, I think this is an excellent way to do it. There's a lot, and I do mean a lot, of replay value just in this box alone. There is a shitload of combinations of different runners and different cards in your deck. So if you want to play a game where there's a lot of different ways you can play the game, this is definitely one to try. And I think the appeal is higher if you're a fan of that cyberpunky aesthetic, because there's a lot of that here too. I also think there's a lot of opportunity here when it comes to future releases. If this game gets popular enough to have future releases, there could be a future box that has a different board setup and different colored teams that allow for things like a 4-player setup in the future. I think that is a possibility. Maybe a mega board that has 4 distinct slots in a cross formation. Hard to do? Yes. Worth it? Possibly not. Neat to see. I'd like to try it out sometime, perhaps. Overall, I like this. I'm glad that these guys sent this game out to me to try and play, and overall, I don't think it's all that bad. In fact, I think it's pretty good. But that's just my opinion. Have you guys had a chance to look at this game yet? If so, let me know. Let me know what you think of this review in the comment section down below. And if you liked this video, please leave a like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.